Mark Wilson stood outside his own car dealership, squinting up at the massive blue and silver sign. Wilson Auto Mall, 6 locations across Texas, all carrying his family name, a business built by his father, a legacy he was supposed to protect. And yet, he hadn't set foot in this particular location, here in Austin, for over a year. The reports from his district manager, Mr. Cooper, had been mixed. Sales numbers looked steady on paper, but customer complaints? Rising, sharply. Something wasn't right. Something was off. Mark adjusted his disguise in the side mirror of an old parked truck. A thick beard masked his familiar face. Simple glasses dulled his sharp CO stare. A worn-out Texas Longhorns cap sat low over his eyes. An old denim jacket hung loose on his broad frame. He didn't look like a CEO today. He looked like any other tired Texan walking in off the street. And that was exactly the point. This wasn't a friendly visit. This wasn't about numbers. This wasn't about management meetings. This was about finding out the truth. With 6 locations, Mark had learned to trust his managers, to let them run things. Maybe that was a mistake. He took a long breath and stepped inside. The bright showroom hit him with a familiar rush. The smell of new leather, fresh brewed coffee, the hum of quiet sales chatter. This was home, but it didn't feel like it. Not today. Mark's eyes scanned the floor. He didn't recognize most of the employees here. With so many locations, faces changed, names changed, but behavior told you everything. He noticed them right away. Ryan, a sharp-looking salesman in his late 20s, hair slicked back, smile too fast, too practiced. Emily, young, barely 24, newer. It's a clean polo shirt, honest eyes, the kind of employee every business owner hopes for. Mr. Cooper, the manager, mid-50s, sitting comfortably behind his office desk, scrolling on his phone, oblivious. Mark's plan was simple. Pretend to be a customer. Watch, listen, figure out what was really happening here before it was too late. It didn't take long. Mark had barely made it halfway across the showroom when the salesman he'd been watching, Ryan, made his move. Polished shoes, confident steps. That salesman energy people either trust or regret trusting. Morning there, sir. Ryan's voice was bright, smooth, like butter on warm bread. You thinking about upgrading today? Mark didn't flinch, just offered a casual, tired nod. Looking for something reliable, he said. Maybe a truck. Nothing fancy, just honest work. Ryan grinned widely. Oh, you came to the right place. That line, Mark had heard it 100 times before, but today it landed differently. Today, he didn't trust it. Ryan wasted no time. He guided Mark toward a shiny black Ford F-150 near the front window. This one right here is a beauty, Ryan said proudly. Brand new engine. We replaced it just last week. Runs like a dream. Mark stood still. His stomach sank. He knew this truck. He knew it down to the VIN number. And he knew, for a fact, that no new engine had ever touched his vehicle. It's just an oil change 6 months ago. Basic maintenance. Nothing more. Mark stayed calm. He didn't react. Not yet. But every word out of Ryan's mouth was another crack in the foundation, another betrayal. Ryan kept going. If you're serious, I could probably knock a few hundred off today, but only if you sign before lunch. There's been a lot of eyes on this one. Mark exhaled slowly. Pressure tactic. Lie on top of lie. Exactly the kind of garbage his father taught him never to tolerate. And just when Mark was about to say something, he heard it. A voice. Clear. Direct. You know that's not true, Ryan. Mark turned. Emily. She stood near the reception desk. Her face was tight. Her arms are crossed. Ryan's smile faltered for just a second. But ego always pushes harder when it's challenged. Ryan chuckled. Emily, maybe leave the sales floor to the pros, all right? Emily didn't back down. The engine wasn't replaced, she said, her voice steady. "We did minor tune-ups." "That's it. Customers deserve the truth." Mark stared at her. Something flickered in his chest. "Hope." Ryan let out a dry laugh. "Why don't you go file some paperwork, Emily? I've got this." And just like that, she was pushed aside. Quiet, dismissed. But Mark saw everything he needed to see. Not just a bad salesman. Not just a small lie. This was systemic. This was learned behavior. Ryan wasn't afraid to lie, because no one ever stopped him. The real question was, how long had this been going on? And who was allowing it? Mark forced a neutral smile, played the game a little longer. "What kind of warranty comes with a truck?" he asked casually. Ryan didn't even blink. "Full coverage. 1 year, parts and labor. No extra cost." Another lie. Mark knew Wilson Auto Mall's policy like the back of his hand. 30 days, parts only. He chuckled quietly. "Sounds like a good deal." Ryan clapped him on the shoulder. "The best deal you'll find in Austin, sir." Mark followed him toward the small glass-walled office. His eyes scanned the floor as they walked. Emily was back at the front desk, typing, but shaking her head in frustration. The older salesman nearby, a man Mark didn't recognize, chatted easily with a customer, oblivious. And there, in the corner office, sat Mr. Cooper, still scrolling his phone, still not paying attention. Mark's chest tightened. This wasn't just a salesman problem. This was a leadership failure, a culture failure, and it wore his family name. He stepped into the office behind Ryan. Ryan grabbed a pen, tapped the contract. "If you sign today, I can probably knock a few hundred off, but only if we get this wrapped up right now." Mark leaned back in the chair. "And if I need time to think?" Ryan smiled thinly. "Truck might be gone by the end of the day. Sir, you'd be surprised how fast good deals move." Silence. A long, heavy pause. Mark stared at the contract, at the fake numbers, at the man sitting across from him, so sure of himself. And then, very quietly, he stood, removed his glasses, pulled off his cap, ran a hand through his hair. Ryan's face drained of color. Instantly, Mark's voice was calm, but still. "I own this dealership." Everything stopped. Ryan froze. No words. No escape. Just a man who realized, too late, that the stranger he lied to was the one person he should never have crossed. Mark's eyes locked on the doorway. "Get the manager in here," he said. "Now!" Ryan didn't move. He stood there, blinking fast, like maybe if he stayed quiet long enough, this moment would just pass. It didn't. Mark kept his voice even. "I said get the manager." Ryan's mouth opened, then closed. He nodded stiffly and stepped out of the office. Mark stood by the window, staring out at the lot. Trucks lined up like soldiers. Shiny, reliable, clean. But inside, this place wasn't clean. It was cracked, spoiled, and now it was personal. He heard the door open behind him. Footsteps, slower, heavier, then a voice, trying too hard to sound casual. "Mr. Wilson, I wasn't expecting you today." Mark turned. Mr. Cooper, mid-50s, broad shoulders. The button-down shirt was too tight at the collar. A man who'd been with the company for 8 years. Trusted, senior, safe, or so Mark thought. Mark didn't respond right away. He studied Cooper for a beat, the way his eyes darted to Ryan, to the half-filled contract on the desk, then back. Then he spoke. "I wasn't expecting to be here either." He nodded toward Ryan, "but I had a feeling something was off." He paused. "And now I know I was right." Cooper shifted in place. Mark pointed at the contract. "He told me that truck had a brand new engine. It doesn't. He told me I'd get a full 1-year warranty. That's not true either." He looked Ryan dead in the eye. "You lied to a customer. You lied to me." Ryan inhaled sharply, tried to recover. "Look, it's It's how sales work. Customers expect a little embellishment. It's how we close deals. Mark's eyes narrowed. That's not sales. His voice was low, clipped. That's fraud. Ryan's mouth opened, then shut again. Mark turned to Cooper. How often does this happen? Cooper hesitated, just for a second, but Mark caught it. And that second, that hesitation, said everything. Cooper cleared his throat. I trust my team to handle customers professionally. If mistakes were made, I'll address them. Mistakes? Mark repeated. He stepped closer. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. He looked between them. And based on how comfortable Ryan was saying it, I'm guessing it's not the first time. Cooper exhaled. I won't pretend every deal's been perfect, but we have targets to hit. If we don't push a little, we fall behind. There it was. The truth, not whispered, but said aloud. And it made Mark's stomach turn. Not like this, he said firmly. Not under my name. Ryan stepped in again, defensive now. Do you know how many customers walk in, waste our time, lowball us, walk out with nothing? We don't have time to play fair every time. Mark stared at him. You think that justifies lying? Ryan didn't answer. Didn't need to. Mark turned back to Cooper. Why is his dealership relying on deception to meet its numbers? Is that something you've been encouraging? Cooper held up a hand, placating. I wouldn't say encouraging, but I don't micromanage. I let my team make the calls they need to make. Mark shook his head slowly. No anger, just disappointment. That's not leadership. That's looking the other way. He took a breath. This isn't just about Ryan. He turned back toward the door, then stopped. I saw something else today. He met Cooper's gaze. Emily. Cooper blinked. She tried to stop the lie before it went too far. She spoke up, and Ryan shut her down. Neither man spoke. Mark stepped forward, his voice low but clear. Why wasn't she empowered to do the right thing? Cooper rubbed his temple. She still knew. Good instincts, sure, but she doesn't always understand how the business works. Mark's jaw tightened. She understands more than either of you if she's the only one calling out a lie. A thick silence settled in the room. Then Mark spoke again. Final, unshakable. This stops today. He turned toward Ryan. No more lies. No pressure tactics. No fake upgrades. No inflated warranties. If you can't sell a car honestly, you won't be selling here at all. Ryan looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He knew better. Mark turned back to Cooper. I need to know if you're capable of running the store the right way. Because if you're not... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Cooper nodded slowly. I hear you. Mark wasn't satisfied. That's not enough. I want an action plan on my desk by tomorrow. A full review of every sales process, every complaint, every employee. And I want to talk to Emily. Today. Cooper gave another reluctant nod. Understood. Mark looked at Ryan one last time. You're suspended. Ryan's face hardened, but he didn't protest. Didn't say a word. He just walked out of the office. Mark watched him go, then turned to Cooper. Fix this. A pause. Or I will. And with that, he stepped out of the office, toward the front desk, toward the one person who still seemed to believe in doing the right thing. Mark stepped out of the office. The air in the showroom felt heavier now, not because the space had changed, but because the truth had. He walked toward the front desk. Emily was still there, head down, typing quietly. But she had seen it all. She had seen Ryan walk out, pale, humiliated, defeated. She had seen Mark standing there, no longer a customer, no longer anonymous, but the owner. As Mark reached the desk, Emily looked up. There was caution in her eyes, uncertainty, maybe even fear. For a second, she probably wondered if speaking up had cost her everything. Mark stopped in front of her. His voice was quieter now, gentler. Come with me. She hesitated. just for a moment, but then she stood, straightened her back, and followed him. They walked to a small office near the back, away from the noise, away from the stairs. Mark held the door open for her. As she stepped inside, he could see it. That mix of emotions, tension, curiosity, hope. Emily sat across from him, hands folded in her lap. Mark didn't waste time, didn't sugarcoat anything. How long have you been working here? Almost a year, she answered quietly. Mark nodded. And how often have you seen sales tactics like Ryan's? Emily hesitated, then spoke honestly. More times than I can count. That confirmed everything Mark already knew. If this had been an isolated incident, she wouldn't have reacted like that. Not with that much conviction, not with that much courage. Mark leaned forward slightly. And the manager, Mr. Cooper, how much does he actually know? Emily exhaled. Enough. She paused. He doesn't tell him a lie outright, but he doesn't stop them either. She looked down. He just wants the numbers to look good. Mark closed his eyes for a second. It lined up perfectly. Mr. Cooper didn't create the problem, but he let it grow because it was easier, because it was profitable. Emily added, almost like it hurt to say out loud, sometimes customers come back angry when they realize they've been misled. Her voice dropped, and Mr. Cooper just smooths it over, offers a free oil change, a small discount, a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. Mark clenched his jaw. It wasn't just about one lie. It was about a system designed to hide them. He looked at her carefully. Why did you speak up today? The question seemed to catch her off guard, but the answer? Simple, pure, because it was wrong. Mark studied her for a long beat. Most employees wouldn't have risked stepping in, not if they wanted to keep their job, but she had, which told him everything he needed to know. He sat back in his chair, let out a slow breath. I need people like you here, Emily. People who care about how we do business. Her eyes widened, surprised, cautious. What are you saying? Mark leaned forward. I'm making changes. The way this place has been run, that ends now. But I can't fix it alone. He let the words settle, then added quietly, I need people I can trust. People who won't just look the other way. Emily sat back, thinking, processing. I want to help, she said carefully, but I don't know if the others will change. Some of them have been doing it this way for years. Mark nodded. That was real. That was true. People build habits. People protect their comfort zones. Then we find the ones who won't change, he said calmly, and we replace them. Emily blinked. It was bold. It was ruthless, but it was necessary. Mark's voice softened. If you could make changes here, what would you do? She didn't even hesitate. For starters, I make sure customers actually understand what they're buying. No pressure tactics. No misleading warranties. Mark smiled faintly. That was a good start, but she wasn't done. There are good people here, Emily added. People who want to do things the right way, but feel like they don't have a choice. Mark sat in silence, thinking, realizing that was on him. That was his failure. If you want this place to change, Emily continued, they need to know there won't be consequences for doing the right thing. Mark nodded slowly. That was leadership. That was what he had forgotten. He stood, his voice steady. I'm going to make this dealership something people can be proud of again. He looked her in the eye, and I want you to be part of that process. Emily hesitated, then straightened her shoulders. What do you need me to do? Mark glanced toward the door. For now, keep doing what you did today. Speak up when something's wrong. And if anyone tries to pressure you into silence, you come straight to me. Emily nodded. Her expression changed. Determined now. Ready? As they stepped out of the office, she glanced back. Just for a moment, Mark saw it. Not fear, not uncertainty, but something else. Respect. And maybe just maybe hope. Mark stepped back onto the showroom floor, and for a second, everything was still, silent, heavy. The hum of casual sales talk had vanished. Every employee could feel it. Something had shifted. Something was coming. Mark didn't speak right away. He didn't have to. His presence alone carved through the room like a blade. Some employees glanced at him nervously. Others kept their eyes down, pretending to adjust papers, keyboards, anything to avoid his gaze. But they could feel him, right there, watching. Mr. Cooper stood near the reception desk, his face pale, jaw tight. He was clutching his tablet, like it might protect him from what was about to happen. It wouldn't. Emily lingered at the edge of the desk, quiet, but standing tall. Her eyes met Mark's. Not afraid. Ready? Ryan. He was still there, off to the side, arms crossed, jaw clenched so hard it looked painful. He was cornered, exposed, but his pride hadn't left him. Not yet. Mark walked to the center of the showroom. Slow, measured, every step echoed, commanding, unstoppable. Then, with a voice that cut through the air like steel, he spoke. I know some of you are wondering why I'm here. Heads turned. Silence. No one dared interrupt. Mark's eyes scanned the room, locking with face after face. Some familiar, some not, but all of them were his responsibility. All of them carried his family name. I didn't come here to inspect numbers. I didn't come here to shake hands. I came here because I've been hearing things. His voice grew harder, colder, more dangerous. And today, I've seen them for myself. The words landed like a hammer. Every employee stiffened. The lies, the pressure tactics, the manipulation. Mark let the words hang, suffocating the room. That ends. Now, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick, suffocating, alive. He continued, and let me be clear. I know not everyone in this room works that way. His eyes found Emily, unwavering. But I also know some of you have felt like you didn't have a choice. He let that truth settle. Deep, undeniable. That change is starting today. Mark's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It was the voice of a man who had nothing left to prove, and nothing left to tolerate. No more lies. No more manipulating customers into deals they don't understand. No more shortcuts. No more excuses. If you can't sell honestly, you won't be selling here at all. Some employees shifted uncomfortably, fear in their eyes. Some looked relieved, like prisoners realizing the door had been unlocked. Ryan, his jaw worked furiously. Fury, pride, but no courage to speak. Not anymore. Mark turned toward Mr. Cooper. You will conduct a full review of every deal closed in the last 6 months. If any of them involve deception, we fix it. Refunds, repairs, whatever it takes. Cooper swallowed hard, nodded stiffly, but Mark wasn't done. There will also be a new training program. Focus on ethical sales. Mandatory for every single employee. If anyone refuses, he paused, looked each of them dead in the eye. They will be let go. Murmurs rippled across the floor. Fear, shock, but also something else. Something stronger. Respect. Mark let the moment breathe. Then quietly from the side of the room, Emily stepped forward. No hesitation. No fear. She spoke. Clear. Strong. I think this is the right move. Her voice was steady, even as every eye in the room turned to her. People should be able to buy a car without worrying about being lied to. If we do this the right way, customers will trust us again. Mark's chest tightened, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with something rare. Pride. A few employees, slowly, began to nod. Not all, not enough, but a few, and that was where change started. Mark turned back to Cooper. You're in charge of making this happen. He paused. But if I see resistance, If I hear about anything being ignored, his voice dropped lower, harder. We will have a very different conversation. Cooper's face drained of color, but he nodded again. Understood. Mark looked at everyone. One last sweep of the room. Final, uncompromising. Get back to work. His voice was calm, controlled, but do it the right way. Slowly, the room stirred back to life. Some whispering, some moved carefully, but all of them knew everything had changed. Emily lingered, met his gaze, offered him a small nod, not forced, not nervous, but real, solid. Mark nodded back, a silent promise. This wasn't over. It was only beginning. The next few days, they felt different. Not loud, not dramatic, but quieter, sharper, like the air in Wilson Auto Mall had shifted, waiting for something to break or something to begin. Mark stayed, not in his office, not behind glass walls, but on the floor, among them, watching, listening. Some employees moved slower now, careful, second-guessing every word they said to a customer. Old habits are hard to kill, especially bad ones. But Mark didn't expect perfection overnight. He didn't want it. He wanted awareness. And for the first time in a long time, he could feel it. He saw Emily talking to a young couple. No pressure, no tricks, just facts, transparency. When the couple asked about a used sedan, Emily didn't dodge. She pulled up the full service history, showed them the minor repairs, told them about the 30-day warranty. No surprises, no false promises. Mark watched them smile, not because they were being sold something, but because they were being respected. That was what trust looked like. Simple, quiet, real. Across the room, Mark caught Mr. Cooper reviewing contracts. Face tense, but working, digging. There was sweat on his brow. And for once, it wasn't from avoiding responsibility. And then there was Ryan, still here, but distant, like a ghost. Mark saw him near the back of the lot, pacing, talking in hushed tones with another salesman. Mark didn't need to hear the words. He knew the story. Some people change. Some people pretend. And some people, they leave. Mark would deal with that soon. But not now. Not yet. Because right now, he was watching something more important. Something better. At the front desk, Emily was talking with one of the new hires, a younger kid, barely 20. Mark caught a few words. Advice, encouragement. She was already teaching, already leading, without a title, without permission. That's what real leadership looked like. And Mark, he saw it clear as day. By late afternoon, Mark returned to the manager's office. Mr. Cooper was waiting, paper spread out, a folder half open. Mark shut the door. Calm, firm. Have you started reviewing the deals I asked for? Cooper exhaled, leaning back slightly. I have. It's gonna take time. But I've already found a few questionable contracts. Mark folded his arms. Define questionable. Cooper hesitated, then pulled a document from a folder. This one here. He tapped the page. A customer was told they were getting a certified pre-owned vehicle, but the inspection wasn't actually completed before the sale. Mark's jaw clenched. So they paid extra for a certification that didn't exist. Cooper nodded. Mark flipped to the next page. Another lie. A warranty misrepresented. Another. A financing deal was altered at the last minute. Higher interest rates than promised. He closed the folder. Exhaled through his nose. How many more of these do you think we'll find? Cooper was quiet. If I had to guess, a lot. Mark's voice was calm, cold. Then we fix every single one. Contact the customers. Offer refunds. Offer free service. Whatever it takes. Cooper frowned. That's going to cost us. Mark didn't blink. The cost of doing nothing is worse. Silence. Real. Heavy. Mark leaned forward. Steady. I need to know something. Are you willing to change? Or are you just going along with this because I'm forcing it? Another pause. Then, for the first time, Mark saw something in Cooper's eyes. Something like shame. Something like truth. I won't lie to you, Cooper said quietly. This dealership has operated this way for years. Not just under me. Before I even got here. It's ingrained. Mark nodded slowly. I don't expect overnight. I expect effort. Cooper met his gaze. You'll get it. Mark studied him, measured him, then picked up the folder. Good. I want updates. Daily. Cooper nodded again. This time, it wasn't reluctant. It wasn't forced. It was real. Mark turned toward the door. Paused. Look back. We do this right. We rebuild this place from the ground up. Cooper exhaled, a man facing the weight of his own mistakes. But for the first time, he wasn't running from them. Mark stepped back onto the showroom floor, eyes sharp, heart steady, because this wasn't about saving a business. Not anymore. This was about saving its soul. Mark stood there, in the middle of the Wilson Auto Mall showroom, still, silent, but inside him, a storm was breaking loose. His heart was beating hard, not from anger, but from something deeper, something heavier. Disgust, disappointment, sadness. This was supposed to be a place of pride. His father built this from nothing. Mark grew up walking these floors, but now he barely recognized it. Behind him, the glass office door closed. Ryan was gone, suspended, disgraced, but Mark knew better. That wasn't the end. That was just the spark. From the far side of the room, it began. Voices, loud, sharp, unfiltered. Tom, the most senior salesman, stepped forward. His face was flushed with anger. Years of pride, years of doing things the old way. Now, I'm being told it was wrong. You think you can walk in here after a year of being absent, Tom spat, and tell us how to do our jobs? Murmurs rippled through the room. Agreement. Frustration. Mark didn't respond. Not yet. He let them speak. He needed to hear the rot. He needed to see how deep it went. George joined in. Another veteran. Another battle-hardened salesman. You sit in your big office while we're down here grinding every day, George added. You have no idea what it takes to keep these doors open. Mike, quieter but sharper, didn't raise his voice, but his words cut deeper. We've been carrying this place while you played CO. We hit the numbers. We closed the deals. And now what? You come here preaching honesty like it pays the bills? Mark's jaw tightened. Inside him, memories rose like ghosts. His father's hands. Rough, calloused, fixing cars, talking to customers like neighbors. Trust wasn't a strategy back then. It was a way of life. But standing here now, looking at these men, Mark realized something brutal. Somewhere along the way, they had lost it. Not just the company, not just the customers. They had lost themselves. Tom's voice broke through the haze. And don't think we're scared of you, Mark. If you want us gone, say it. A beat of silence. Then George added coldly, you need us more than we need you. The words hit Mark like a slap, but not because they were true, because they were so wrong, so blind, so hollow. Mark stepped forward, slow, measured. His voice, it wasn't raised. It didn't need to be. You're right. The veterans tensed, confused, waiting for the catch. Mark's eyes burned with something raw, something they hadn't seen in him for years. You've carried this place. He nodded, slow, respectful, but you didn't carry it forward. A pause. Heavy. You carried it backwards. The words landed like stones. Hard, unforgiving. Mark turned, looked them all in the eye. One by one, you closed deals. You hit numbers. But you didn't build trust. You didn't build loyalty. His voice dropped lower, sharper. You built fear. You built shortcuts. You built a business where people leave feeling cheated. He turned toward the Wilson Auto Mall sign. Big, bold, faded by time. My father didn't build this place so we could survive. He looked back at them, eyes burning. He built it so we could matter. Silence. Even the murmurs stopped. But Tom wasn't done. Old habits die hard. You think customers care about that? He barked. You think trust fills a gas tank? Mark didn't hesitate. He stepped closer. No, but it fills a parking lot. Another pause. Not today, not tomorrow, but forever. He pointed toward the door, toward the world outside. Customers don't forget being lied to. They don't forget being manipulated. But they also don't forget kindness. They don't forget honesty. His voice broke just slightly, but it wasn't weakness. It was true, real, human. This isn't just about cars. This is about how we treat people when no one's watching. He turned back toward Tom. George, Mike, the old guard. If you can't sell with honesty, if you can't lead with respect. His voice dropped to a whisper, but it was the loudest thing in the room. You don't belong here. Silence. Frozen. Thick. Unavoidable. Tom's jaw clenched. His pride cracked, shattered, but still there, still holding him up. He straightened his back. This isn't the dealership I signed up for. Mark nodded. I know. Tom didn't wait. He turned, walked away, out the door, out of the past. George hesitated. Mike lingered. They weren't ready to leave, but they weren't ready to stay either. Not yet. Mark let them go. He didn't hate them. He didn't blame them. They were a product of a broken system. But the system was gone. This was a new beginning. He turned toward the remaining employees. Some young, some quiet, some scared, but all watching, waiting. Mark's voice rose. Steady, unshakable. We build again. We build right. We build for the future. No tricks, no lies, no shortcuts. Because this wasn't about cars. This was about who they chose to be. Weeks passed. These are not easy weeks. Hard weeks. Quiet weeks. The kind of weeks where real work happens. Work no one claps for. Work no one posts about. Mark stayed. He didn't leave after the dust settled. Didn't retreat to some polished corner office. He stayed. On the floor. In the trenches. Where trust wasn't a slogan, but something rebuilt brick by brick. Ryan was gone. Tom was gone. A few others left, too. They took their habits with them, their shortcuts, their pride. But what remained, what truly remained, it was something rare. The people who stayed because they believed, or at least they wanted to believe. Emily was one of them, and in many ways, she became the heart of what was coming next. She didn't need a title, didn't need a promotion. People followed her because of how she treated them. Simple, real, right. Mark saw it every day. The way she trained new hires. Patient, firm, honest. Don't push the customer. Listen to them. Help them. One afternoon, a couple walked in. Older, wary, carrying the weight of past bad experiences from other dealerships. Emily greeted them, treated them like neighbors, showed them the car they asked for. Nothing more, nothing less. No games, no rush, no fake urgency. When they left, they didn't buy that day, but they came back 2 days later. Not because the price was the lowest, not because the car was the newest, but because, as the wife quietly told Emily, "You're the first person who didn't make us feel stupid." Mark heard that from across the floor, and it hit him harder than any sales record ever had. This was it. This was winning. Another day, Mark stood by the service desk. I watched a younger employee explain a repair bill to a frustrated customer. Slow, patient, No blame, no defensiveness, just kindness. The customer calmed, listened, understood. Trust didn't show up in spreadsheets. It showed up in moments like this. Tiny, unseen, but eternal. One evening, after closing, Mark stood in the empty showroom. Lights low, silence stretches across the lot. Emily walked over, quiet, humble, but her eyes steady. "You're staying late again?" she asked. Mark smiled faintly. "Old habit." She hesitated, then asked what had been on her mind for weeks. "Do you ever regret coming back here?" Mark didn't answer right away. He looked around, at the clean floors, at the cars, at the space where so many battles, spoken and unspoken, had taken place. Then he shook his head, slow. "Sure, I regret not coming back sooner." Emily smiled, real, relieved. Mark looked at her, and in that moment, saw the future. Not because of profit margins, not because of sales targets, but because of people like her. People who still believed in good business. Could simply mean good people. Before she left, Emily paused, looked at him. Her voice was quiet, but strong. "We're going to make this place something people can be proud of again." Mark nodded, softly, but with everything in him. "We already are." She left. Lights clicked off, doors locked, and Mark stood there, alone, but never more certain. Because at the end of the day, after all the noise, all the numbers, all the pressure, what really lasts, it isn't what you build, it's how you build it. With honesty, with heart, with people. That's what carries a name. That's what carries a legacy. That's what makes a place worth coming back to. You know, at the end of the day, every business sells something. A product, a service, a promise. But the truth is, people don't come back for the product. They don't stay for the price. They stay for how you made them feel. Trust, it's not built in one day. It's built in every little choice, every honest word, every quiet act of respect when no one is watching. And sometimes doing the right thing, it costs more, it takes longer, it's harder. But in a world full of shortcuts, being someone who chooses the long road, that's rare, that's brave, that's legacy. Because businesses come and go, buildings rise and fall, but character stays. And one day, long after the numbers are forgotten, what people will remember, it is how you treat them. That is what really lasts. Always build trust, not just business. Legacy is built with people. Sell with heart. Win for life.